Up with my patients this morning and thought I would share some thoughts about the morning that I had. I had a lovely patient who I've worked with for a number of years come in, and today we were going over results from an MRI she had. And it made me think about the role of imaging and getting diagnosis and what it feels like as a patient to get news that you were hoping wasn't so, or bad news, and just to share some insights from my point of view as a provider for what it's like to deliver bad news. I don't like looking at an MRI that shows significant injuries and having to be the person who shares that information. If I don't take a minute to remind myself that I am in a place of privilege and honor that I get to help this person navigate that. So first of all, I have to kind of put that hat on so that I can come to it with my eyes wide open and not being judgmental. But I will tell you that when I pull out the report or I call up the images and I start looking over and showing where discs are bulging into the spinal canal or orienting people to the anatomy that we see, and I start to see it dawn on them as they look at their imaging that oh, there's pressure on my spinal cord there, or oh, that's arthritis. I hate using the word arthritis with people because we have such a sense of it being something that affects old people and puts them in wheelchairs and creaks over their fingers, and yeah, for sure all of that happens, but arthritis is something that I see in 30-year-olds and much younger people. So it's one of those really loaded terms that is not very helpful. It's kind of a fear inducer. But what always happens is I start to see the person that I'm working with, their face just almost goes blank. It's like the room gets really quiet, everything comes to a stop, and they just start to look at me that pause, that deer in the headlights of oh, there's something really wrong. And I just take a minute to kind of honor that space, and that's where I know it's my job to be the leader here and to help them navigate through this path, right? The second thing that happens as I start going over specific findings is you start to see their face, or the color go out of their face, or people almost kind of turn green, or get that sickening look. And I think it's not so much just seeing the image or hearing the news, but what they're starting to do is think, how is my life going to be impacted? Things are going to change now because of this. Maybe I'm not going to get to go hiking and camping with my family like I like to, or maybe I can't play pickleball anymore, or things like that. And so when I see that look start to crawl across people's face, sorry, I can see that I'm trying to get in the camera here. So when I see that look start to crawl across people's face, I know then that I have work to do to help them understand it. So what I usually do then is start delving into the findings on the MRI. You have a disc herniation, it's this many millimeters between L3 and L4. It looks like it's encroaching on this nerve, and that's why you feel pain going from the top of your buttock around to the front, kind of in your groin, or that discomfort that you've been having on the outside of your leg and in your pinky toe, or the weakness, that is from this finding. And as we do that, people's face starts to change into that aha. And it's they go from worry all of a sudden into feeling almost relieved. Because I think a lot of us, when we're dealing with a significant injury, start to tell ourselves things like, you're just a wimp. You're crazy. It must be all in your head. Sometimes because sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe I just need to suck it up, or maybe it's my mattress. I think I slept funny. I think I slept wrong. And so as we start digging into the findings and being able to really put words and information and data and tie it to the symptoms that they're having, people start to feel relieved. And that is the part where I feel immense gratitude that I can help them navigate through this process and get information. the few drawbacks that there are with imaging is that once we see a picture of our body that shows herniations or arthritis or degenerative changes, we really start to own that inside and think like, oh, my back doesn't hurt because I slept wrong. It's because I've got arthritis. I've got degenerative discs. And we start to make stories in our head about what that means for our future. Well, I'm not going to be able then, to mountain bike anymore because, boy, that's just way too hard on my knees. Or stuff like that. And that's not necessarily true. Lots of people who have had disc herniations, arthritis, all sorts of significant injuries, continue to live active, engaged lives. And so there is some research that shows when people get imaging that they tend to have worse outcomes because now they have a different sense of what's going on in their body, and they almost start to embrace the limitations that it provides. So that is one of the pitfalls that I like to make sure that we address when I'm delivering what some people might perceive as bad news. I like to say, what we see here today is nothing new. This is simply a read and more information about the condition that's been in your body over a long time. So it doesn't really change things necessarily going forward. It just gives us more information so we can make better decisions about how we are going to get you to heal, to fortify your body, and to recover and heal going forward. Okay? And I think that's the best outcome that can come when getting imaging, is that we actually find something that's wrong. It gives us more understanding and compassion for our own self, and then it gives us information that we can use to draw on bringing in better professionals, always when I'm working with someone, to use the tools and information you have to pull a team around you so you can make a plan to do the best possible for yourself into the future. Okay, so I just really want to urge anyone who's had a significant diagnosis not to get too caught up in the rabbit hole of what that all means. Just to know it's information, and you can use it to create a team and weigh options and create a plan to move forward. So that's all I have for you today. I'm going to get to my chart notes so that Jody, my office manager, is happy with me.